All systems go. Clear for liftoff. What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, aka ToeTagginTambo, back for another edition of the Takedown Breakdown here on the Ship It Nation YouTube station. Got my guys with me as usual, Mr. M. Belman, and we got Big Nades. We're going to break it all down. We're going to look at the $20 Millie Maker. We're going to look at some of the tools and everything over at Ship It Nation. Do us a favor on the way in. Make sure to hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Later on, 2 p.m. Eastern, Hoop, Title, and myself will be back to break down the game tonight between the Cowboys and the Raiders. But Matt, I'm going to start with you, man. What's going on? How's your week 11 so far?
My week 11 is going okay. Should be a lot better, as I was kind of venting and tilting to you guys before the show. But that is the life of DFS. We got a new day today, a really interesting Monday night slate to talk about, or not to talk about, but to get into later. So yeah, I'm excited to break down this slate with you, as we were ending with before the show started. A lot of duds yesterday.
Yeah, definitely, kind of just was picked that spot. The game that everybody thought was going to be the game was the game, and sometimes that's how it goes. The other thing was that if you looked at the morning of all the tilt of the backup running backs and this, that, and the other, and it's going to be such a low-scoring slate, the optimal got to almost 300. And then if you look at the winner of the $20 Millie Maker, DPAC 2, got to 248.98. So we'll definitely get there. Shout out to everybody joining us in the chat. Before I bring my man Nades in, we got Go Collect. We got Sean talking about a process mistake. Yeah, if you like all three, definitely should be interested in Brissett, because that's literally what ended up on the Millie. Congrats to my man Max getting it done yesterday for 4K. Going to bring that up. Winner's Circle. Coach Sav always in here working to get better. Jonesy with the big day. Yeah, you got to show up after the big boy day. Congrats to Jonesy. $900 into 60K. Other, stuff going on too, but that's the big one. And then shout out to Kendall F. Always here grinding to get better. Nades, what's going on, my man? How you doing?
Doing good, man. Played pretty light Sunday, had other stuff going on, and that's another important lesson too for everyone, right? When you're kind of on the go and doing stuff out there, it's fine to scale back, right? And not play the kind of normal allotment, right? That you're used to playing when you're locked into your computer and kind of doing everything. I was out and out of pocket, so I just played one lineup. Didn't get home, but again, we'll talk about kind of that game, and found a lot of interesting stuff with that most popular game on how you can leave a bunch of people behind in the exact same room, in the exact same game, not playing wild Terrell Shavers type guys, Sean Tucker, Kenneth Gainwell. You didn't need none of them bums, right? You can play good players in this game with solidified roles when the average person, right, or the average person going in building lineups, it feels uncomfortable to click 6, 7, 8 guys from one game, right? When it has a 48.5 total, everybody's going there. Guys are underpriced, all that. So I think that's an important lesson to be learned too. Is number one, find a scale back if you're not locked in, or if you're on the go. And then if you do find a good spot, there's always, adding that 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th guy into your stacks feels uncomfortable for the majority, and we're going to see that when we talk through Stack Finder when we're going through the winning lineups in these Millie Maker contests.
Yeah, people love the Stack Seeker when we go in and to check it out, and I'm going to definitely do that with the Brissett stuff. There's Max. Want to shout out to everybody across the community. There's many more, but this was just yesterday, a little bit right after the fact. The community continues to crush, as it states, but there's Max for 4K getting it done it looks like it was a 10 max entry. There is our man Jonesy right there. That's the $900 to 60K. There was a 400 to 1,000 on top of that, but shipping the 153 max with 50K up top is very nice. Our man Kenny W goes up and takes down he took it. Actually, this isn't even on here. He had a 2K to 10K day yesterday on the main slate, played a little lighter, it looks like, and then came back and won the Thunderdome last night for 20K. So congrats to Kenny W. Gang Green, many more in the Discord. So just shout out to everybody there. But quick tangent on what you just went off of there, I will say, and shout out to our man Kenny and Philly and Sites and everybody in here that's watching. The Sean Tucker thing, why are you tilting that? Like, everybody out there, this is what I try and say every single time. This last time he did it was I believe it was a Bucky Irving week last year when Bucky Irving got like 23 and like, oh, those should have all been Sean Tucker points. He could have had 50. It didn't matter. He came in, the highest lineup Sean Tucker hit was the 12th place lineup in the Millie that day. I just scanned the entire top 20 of the $20 Millie Maker. Stop worrying about people that nobody has and focus on the people you didn't get to that everyone has that are crushing you, because that's who's actually crushing you. The people that played Sean Tucker have shitty lineups. They didn't commit enough. They don't have enough. They have Josh Allen with all the busts that made Sean Tucker work. Oh, if I'm going to play him, that means Josh Allen's going to nuke. Not many people play just Josh Allen and Sean Tucker together and things like that. So, I mean, so many people stressing out about the dumbest shit. No, you didn't have anyone on Tampa anyway, so he wasn't even hurting that. It's different if you had all the Rachaad White or all the Ibuka or all the something. But, man, you got to stop tilting these guys that don't hurt you and in any way whatsoever, and they don't even end up on the winners at the end of the day. It doesn't matter how many points they put up because nobody has them. So that's important to remember in DFS. I don't think enough people talk about it. Matt, I'm going to go back to you. Perfect lineup up on the screen. Speaking of Josh Allen, he's right there. We'll get to the $20 Millie Maker later at some faces and familiar names that we know. And then, let's look at this first. So, Matt, this is Sean Tucker certainly does show up on the optimal to that point, to my rant. But I will say that's where people get stressed out because, the Kenneth Gainwell, at least Kenneth Gainwell hurt your Warren stuff, but Warren got injured too. So it's like all my point is Sean Tucker didn't hurt nobody. Gainwell kind of hurt your Warren stuff. That's something I'd be tilting more than Sean Tucker. Go ahead. I'll let you look at this one and just walk us through. It looks like, 48.5. They left, the optimal least 1,500 on the table and just shows you what you could have got to yesterday. But again, not everybody was getting all this stuff.
Yeah. Before I get into this, what's funny about the Sean Tucker play is Tommy the Vig won the 555 Millie Maker last week. We went over the lineup and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I just randomly happened to click on his lineup yesterday. He had Sean Tucker in the big 4K Millie Maker. I think he was the only one to have him.
1 second.
Where did this guy come from?
Too. Just 1 second. I want to say something on that. Where is it here? Yeah, I went to that lineup. And congrats to Tommy the Vig. And I think it's a great player. Obviously, just won the Millie Maker. Awesome stuff. One thing I thought of yesterday, because I was looking at this tournament, I didn't play in it because I didn't have a ticket. I never play in this unless I win in. But I saw his lineup when it was up there early because it had Sean Tucker and Bijan together. I would say I would fully applaud for only playing 3 in the 44-44 the week after you win $1 million. That's what it's all about. Like I've been going on this one lately too, Matt. Not to cut you off, but I just really do want to speak on this quickly.
No, please.
Just if it didn't take you a bunch to win big,
yeah,
playing more does not mean you win more. So when you didn't need that amount to win that much, I love to see that he only really played these lineups in the Millie. Maybe he played more, but I only saw those 3. So my point being, congrats on that. But that lineup had Sean Tucker, Gabe Davis at 0.3, Isaiah Likely at 3, Stafford with again, once you put Sean Tucker in, you're probably good. Right? You didn't need Isaiah Likely, all this. And it's not like I know better. I'm just saying it was.
Play the good plays.
Yeah.
When you have a guy like Sean Tucker that literally no one else in the field has, after that, play the good plays. And the good plays ended up working out yesterday. It's obviously easier to say hindsight's 20/20, but to your point, you don't need to go on the Likely Stafford Puka Island when you have Sean Tucker who just absolutely nuts. I totally agree with you. It's a great point to make.
And also it was if you're going to play Gabe Davis and Ibuka, why not find the $400? You got to, I know his defense got there for him in that lineup with the Steelers at 3,300, but find the money and just get Stafford up to Allen so that Allen to get Gabe Davis's big day involves Josh Allen. Josh Allen's big day involves Josh Allen. And then you've got Ibuka on the run back that kind of opens that game up. It's not criticizing. Like I said, honestly, just the guy just crushed, won $1 million. Love everything about it. Just saying, from my stance and my point of view on stuff is once I saw the Tucker thing, I was like, damn, that's cold. You're feeling it coming off that big W. And then it's I look at the rest of the line. I was like, man, that's aggressive after even already putting a 0.3% Sean Tucker in there. So anyway, rant, end rant, but go back to this perfect lineup if you want. You can start there.
Yeah. So the first thing I see immediately, the first 2 things that catch my eye, 3 pieces from the Arizona San Fran game, which to me was the best game on paper throughout the week. It got talked about a lot, but wasn't like ownership was crazy at all, except for Michael Wilson. Trey McBride was up there, but he was so by far the best tight end option that it made sense. So those 3 guys, you kind of black out those 3. Then you have Josh Allen by himself. Not the first time, not the last time we'll see Josh Allen in an optimal lineup by himself. 3 rushing touchdowns, 3 passing touchdowns. To Nades's point, he threw them to anyone and everyone. Ty Johnson, Shavers, like those guys weren't owned and shouldn't have been owned. So you didn't need, and actually if you played him with any of his weapons, you were much better playing him without them. Shakir was the most popular guy. He was awful. So that makes sense. Gainwell and Tucker. I mean, what are you going to say? Old friend or good friend of mine, Neil Orfield, I heard talking about Gainwell this week. Talked to him a little bit on Sunday. He liked Gainwell kind of in just the Cincinnati's so bad against the run that, why not look at a guy like Gainwell who gets work? Ended up getting there because Jaylen Warren got hurt, to your point. Sean Tucker, one of the biggest outliers I think we'll see. Backup running back scoring close to 40 fantasy points when the number one RB is healthy. Obviously, when Bucky's there, he's the number 3. But yesterday, White was the number 1, didn't get hurt. Sean Tucker goes for close to 40. I mean, what are you going to do? No Bijan in the optimal after his start yesterday is pretty surprising. Ted McMillan went nuts. And Watson was just cheap and did well enough on a slate where, as I mentioned at the beginning, there was a lot of duds. So Watson, I think, was 4,400, went for 20. A lot of weeks you might not see that on the optimal. This one you do.
Yep. I think one thing to add too is, like, again, I think, when some people see it or call it out or make a case for it, I like it a lot better when there's something there that you're leveraging. So if Warren is going to get to 50% and stuff, and in your $20 Millie Maker pool, you want to get a 10% share of Gainwell and sub that in, go for it. If you think ETN is just like way too popular this week for you, and you're like, I seen Tootin already getting 4 to 5 carries in regular time, not just garbage time the week before, maybe I'll go to a guy like that. I'm not being results oriented because they're the ones that I'm being results oriented because they're the ones that got there, I should say, but I'm not bringing it up like, oh, you should have got to them. I'm saying at least with those, I understand it. The Tucker one makes sense. But again, Nades, you got Stack Seeker up. How many people ran Josh Allen and Tucker? This is the annoying part though, because then if you got to put in Shakir and they probably stay the same. But I'm just curious how many people even had Allen with Tucker in the $20 Millie Maker.
So Josh Allen with Sean Tucker, 14 lineups.
Right. Out of how many?
They were both low. I mean, Allen was low owned himself.
Hold on. I had Jaylen Warren clicked. 63 lineups. Well, hold on. Let me uncheck. Trey McBride. Okay, so 241 total lineups. 0.1%
going up. All right, but now add in Shakir.
And then you add in Shakir. What was Shakir, like 5,400, 5,500? Okay.
Somewhere in that mid-range.
92 lineups.
All right, so that cancels out almost 100 of them. That it's saying like they're only doing it in stacks right away now. I mean, you could do it all day. We're not going to do it, but be between the other guys. So it's like 150-ish lineups potentially or less because we didn't do Knox, we didn't do Gabe Davis. Do Palmer real quick for a second.
Palmer was what, like 3,000,
35 or 33 or something. Yeah, he was super cheap and became a value play once.
47 total lineups played. Josh Allen, Sean Tucker, Josh Palmer.
Right. And if you add Shakir, and there's probably some doubled up, but either way, it's like 100 lineups. So that's my point, is you're against that. And then they need to get 7 more pieces correct. And so that's kind of the point that we brought up earlier. So I'm glad you could do that for us. I don't think there's too much to add beyond this on the optimal here, Nades. I really want to start digging into this other stuff, but do you have any quick adds just on this one? I think, Ted McMillan is a piece that showed up obviously in this lineup. You could have got to Brissett and Bijan instead of Allen and pick one of those two, whatever you want to see it as. And then the rest is pretty solid there. But, I always have more takes. What's your take?
Yeah, we'll talk about obviously the Wilson, McBride, McCaffrey stuff, right, when we review winning lineups because they're littered all over. The only thing I will say about Sean Tucker, right, is people can tilt their face off all about that. It'd be different if Egbuka was like 40% owned, right, and Sean Tucker was stealing his touchdowns. But what I will say is Rachaad White was running back 1. I mean, Sean Tucker and Rachaad White have been literally 50-50 splitting snaps the last 3 weeks, and Buffalo is ranked 31st in the league against opposing running backs. So there was more of a case, in my opinion, against Gainwell. Gainwell leverage makes the most sense. That's the best argument for any of them. But either way, neither of these two donkeys made it. It didn't matter. I mean, this optimal is 50 points higher than the Millie Maker winner. I mean, and you left $1,500 on the table. Throw those two running backs out, go up to a Chase Brown from Sean Tucker for $700, and then whatever you do with the rest of the bill, drop the Steelers down to the Titans chalk defense, and you probably have right around that 6K range, Rico Dowdle-ish range, somewhere in there to play with a running back, and you still win the Millie Maker, right? Not having those 37 in that 30-point score. So yeah, not much more to add here. The Christian Watson and the Tet McMillan play. The Tet leverages Rico Dowdle, who people wanted to play right in that Atlanta game. I will say that $5,600 wide receiver one in an offense where they're underdogs on the road in Atlanta in the Dome. That was a solid play because it leveraged someone in that game. You could have brought it back with Bijan, right? I saw Sims were popping Bijan and Tet McMillan stacks pretty heavily. And then the Christian Watson leverages Josh Jacobs in a game there at 4,400 with all the injuries Green Bay had. So I think those two wide receiver 1-2s, whatever you want to call them, leverage the running games from those same teams. And why can't it be those guys scoring touchdowns instead of the running backs?
Yeah, we're going to get to the $20 Millie Maker. And I will say, you just made a key point. I'm super jealous of Deepak too, because he won the Millie Maker with McMillan. And we've been saying, I want to win the Millie Maker with McMillan and get the job done. And he did. So Tet got him there at 36 points, 5,600, only 2.7%. So congrats to Deepak too. I saw he's a Stochastic member. It was posted out there. Congrats to him. The top of the leaderboard though, some big names. Shout out to our boy, Bobby Gomes, right there in third for 50K. All these are underrated players that a lot of people don't know, but like Matt Moss, Isupol, Ellie DeCats, 109 Stairs. You see our man Ranger was right there in the mix again. He's been on an absolute heater. He won another 65K in the MMA streets on Saturday night. We posted that out. We had 2 Ship It Nation members get the job done there. Giant Squid, Supavash. I mean, top 20, Skip Bitter. It was just loaded with pros yesterday. And I want to add this point, Matt, and get your take on this, because another thing I noticed, it's like all the tilt because the backup running backs and this, that, and the other, and all that did happen. Nobody can take that away. These things did happen to you. But there's 2 different things here. One is Bijan crushes in the first half, and then Algier gets one, and people freak out. But Tootin steals one, and then Etienne gets 2, and it's like amazing news. Like, this is phenomenal. Isn't it crazy? It always works like this in PGA DFS. If somebody bogeys the first hole, but then is clean out, they're so thrilled because this guy crushed. I know he made a bogey on the first hole. It's okay. But he made 7 birdies, a streak, and had an eagle thrown in there. All is forgiven. But if he has 17 holes with the same 7 birdies, the same streak, and the eagle, and he bogeys away his bogey-free round in the last, it's not variance anymore. That guy's a loser piece of shit because he just screwed up the bogey-free round. It's the same thing. It flips both ways. I think that's always funny about people in these early games. And the other point I was going to make, and I'll let you rant on all of it, was these lineups really that won the Millie, and were up there with a chance to win the Millie, are phenomenal. Single entry builds are phenomenal. If you want them to be, I know they're not all hand. I'm saying, but like, you could hand build these. Everyone was still freaking out that all this crazy shit happened. And in the end, you needed Jacoby with the 2 cheap pass catchers with McBride and one of the best running backs in the league, if not the best, CMC, and the best on the slate, highest priced, Bijan, a talent like no other, with a perfect run back in Tet, Aaron Jones in the Pittsburgh D, and you could kind of just land it wherever. So my point is, all the crazy shit in the world can happen. You can tilt it all you want. The lineup that won was still very clear. This is not some surprising lineup to me. Like, these are all plays, and only the 2% Tet really stands out. Pittsburgh's random. You got to land on the red. That's to win it all. But like, if you look, our man Bobby Gomes, Denver defense in there was just fine. Isopol, Jacksonville, like, they didn't get there for the full Millie, but I'm saying defense is random. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, Cleveland defense is right up there with like close to a 20 spot as, like really, really, really inexpensive. To your point, man, it's almost like a perception is reality type thing. You see that in NBA DFS all the time because especially in the NBA, like everything isn't spread out evenly. Like if a guy's going to score 40 fantasy points, it's unlikely he's going to go for 10 in the first quarter, 10 in the second quarter, 10 in the third, 10 in the fourth. So you see it all the time. If a guy really struggles in the first half, but has a monster second half, everyone's all pumped. Vice versa, if he has a monster first half and then stinks in the second half, to your point about ETN and Bijan, like it's a perception is reality type thing. Interesting point, good point you bring up. As far as the Millie lineup right here, yeah, I agree with everything you said. Bunch of just really, really good plays. A lot of high-owned plays, but also avoided some high-owned plays. No Jalen Warren, no Jamar Chase. Took the leverage there and played Pittsburgh's D. I liked Pittsburgh's D a lot yesterday. They were one of my 2 favorite Ds. I thought that game was going to play out a lot different than it did a couple weeks ago. it ended up playing out a lot different than it did weeks ago. So just a really good lineup. I mean, to Nade's point earlier, like it's rare you see a lineup this much different than the optimal that wins the $20 milli, but that just goes to like the Gainwell and Sean Tucker. Like those were such random plays, especially Sean Tucker. I agree with your point, Nate, that like they were getting splitting the carries. So maybe he was a better play than he seemed on paper, but for him to go to 4 for 40 is a pretty big outlier. That's why you see the big discrepancy between the optimal and this perfect line, or in this winning lineup, I should say. Really, really good lineup put together well.
Yeah, I want to add this too. So a couple things. This is Nades, I'll kick it to you on this one because some of that stuff and just some more. This is 2 weeks in a row now where, and even someone asked me, a really sharp player with a great username, by the way, if he's watching again, but he had asked me last week, he said, because I had said, remember with Standish, I said, that was a great lineup. I really like that build and it makes sense. I think this one's the same. I know some people around the industry in the space are shitting on it, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. Like we have a passion for this. We love it. We're always trying to dig in to find out how to get better. At the end of the day, these types of lineups are simming well. So to Coach Sav in the chat said, I asked this Sunday morning, I think you asked about the Chargers stack specifically. And like I said, that's obviously Blickel's lane, but we've talked about this for weeks on Leverage Lane where the triple stacks are working. And again, this team lost by $1 million and still needed the 4 guys from that team. We saw it with the Geno Smith week with 4 guys and big loss to Washington that week, I believe it was. We saw it last week, not about the loss, but the 4 players with the run back being the running back. And I think people get confused in saying like, oh, usually if it's like a running back going off, that slows the game down and that's like drags on. How would the other side get there? You'd think if all their pass catchers got there, then you wouldn't need that, or that would be a different way of doing it. But realistically, it can happen just like it did. McCaffrey could score early and often and one later on. And then you also get the other team having to throw it a bunch. And then on top of it, price matters. If you see it, it's been value quad stack, like value triple stacks. It's $4,900 Brissett with $3,800 and $3,300. These are combo packs. That's one. If Michael Wilson's score had been spread across those 2 guys, you would have been. If you got 18.25 from both those guys instead of 36.5 and 18.6, well, it wouldn't have won you the milli. I'm just saying, before the slate started, you would have said, "Damn, I'm playing those 2 in every lineup." At that price and those spots. And then it was a way to get the most popular tight end on the slate in. And then you run it back with the guy that makes the most sense or seems to have the most secure role in McCaffrey. There's other builds of this, by the way. You can fit in like Kittle in the tight end, move McBride to the flex just based on price, how an optimizer would do it. Move Christian McCaffrey up to Aaron Jones and then be able to move some pieces around that way too. Like, because then you'd move it down or move Bijan down to somebody else. Like you could still get there in some of these spots with the double tight end, and some did have some pretty good lineups. I think second place, maybe it was Bobby. Yeah, Bobby's lineup was really nice too. So I don't know, Nades, go back to this one first, and then we'll check out Bobby's and some others after.
Yeah, so I want to hit on the McCaffrey stuff. People bitching about why would a running back? I mean, this dude had a 51.5 receiving prop, a 79.5 rushing prop. I mean, the Lad McConkey had 61.5 receiving prop as a wide receiver 1. Right. Like, so people saying that they just don't understand what role McCaffrey has in this offense. And I mean, you could argue, a lot of people were trying to argue 9K was too expensive. I mean, his all-purpose yards prop, you talked about this on the Sunday show, Tambo, was almost 128 yards at a 9K player. And people wanted to run and play Jamar Chase, Puka Nacua, JSN for within $100 to $300 less than him, with a fraction of the props that McCaffrey does. So did want to mention that right away. But the Aaron Jones play, I mean, guess who else was in that price range of Jacoby Brissett? If people weren't going Jacoby Brissett, which obviously in a stack like this, you're going Jacoby with all of this, but you also have to make sure Jacoby beats out JJ McCarthy. Well, how do you leverage JJ McCarthy for $300 less playing Brissett? You also play in Aaron Jones, right? Maybe it's Aaron Jones and JJ McCarthy. For him to really hit his ceiling, it's usually a rushing touchdown or 2, because we obviously all know and have seen multiple weeks in a row now, he can't throw the damn football. So usually when he's really getting there, he's at least picking up 1 on the ground, right? With his legs. He is a good runner. So how do you leverage that? You add in Aaron Jones at 5,500. I get it. He's in a timeshare there, but it's still Chicago defense. They're still bad against the run. All of this thing, it's indoors at home. Aaron Jones, 5,500, good play there. And then you're taking a 9-leg parlay and turning it into basically a 3-leg parlay in a build like this. And that's what people are scared to do. But why are you scared to do that when sports books are offering you fraction of the odds, right? When you lower the legs down? Why is that? Because it's easier to hit. Well, guess what? If the San Fran Arizona game goes off, which it did, and you're sitting there with a skinny stack or a QB plus 2 and 1, well, you're dwarfed by the rest of the people that went in an overstack, and Stack Seeker will show that in this exact game. So I think this build is really, really sound. Defense is what it is. Obviously, you needed the Steelers defense in this because that extra 4 points that I got from like a Cleveland defense was the difference from second place to first place, which is a $900,000 difference. And that feels pretty bad when you're on the back end of that stick. But again, we hit on the Tet and the Bijan stuff. I did want to bring up the Brissett and Aaron Jones correlation there because I don't think a lot of people see that. When you're playing a cheap quarterback like that, who else is in the range that's picking up the ownership? I mean, they were within 2 percentage points of each other in terms of ownership. Jacoby was like, whatever he was, 14% in here. And then I think McCarthy was right in that same range as well.
Yeah, so I love that. And I'll let you go to the set. Let us know in the comments some of the Stack Seeker stuff you want us to look up, any combos or pairings and that stuff. And I'll say a couple more things. One is I don't think anyone this week would be questioning because it's McCaffrey. Like you said, he's literally a wide receiver and a running back blended into one. It was more last week with the Henderson in with the $4 with Baker, Egbuka, Otten, and Tez Johnson. But the point was still, it's the main thing was for others watching, because I know a ton of people had asked me about this after the fact as well, of like, does that make a ton of sense? The main key is like just as quickly as if they were passing first was the argument. It was like, if all those pass catchers got there, why would Henderson be needed? Because now they're playing from behind. But what if Henderson gets there first? It can flip on a dime like that. And then all of a sudden they need to pass to catch up. That can very easily happen as well. So the one you called out though, that's super sharp. And then again, why when some people look at this and say it's dog shit, it's not. It's literally like DFS 101. It's the Sims will love it. So especially if you're using content Sims, you're going to see that a 4-1 type stack is definitely much more in play. You don't need to run anything back, but in this case, it made sense. The Bijan Tet separator as a way to get different with it, but really, like you said, it's the Brissett, JJ McCarthy. A lot of people had McCarthy lineups with, go do this right now. Do JJ McCarthy, Michael Wilson. Type that in for a second. Just those two.
3,434 lineups had those two.
Right. That's your point. And that's why I want to bring that up again, is because this is, like I said, I think you could even build this by hand and land on it and just say this makes sense from a DFS perspective. And you won't always get to the absolute nuts. That's kind of the other point when people say like, yeah, it's easy after the fact. It is. It's really easy when I'm literally staring at the winner. But I'm telling you this for a reason, is when you don't have the answer sheet or the puzzle box piece, like I always talk about, it's like the cover of a puzzle that you don't get till after it ends. Building like this and thinking through this is what can put you in a position. If you came up and missed on a couple spots, but still scored 202 yesterday, go check a lot of the things you played in, and it probably played pretty well unless you're in the highest fields. But you can add in some satellites, you can add in some qualifiers, you can add in some $20 5 maxes, things like that, where a score like that could still play. So while you might not have got to this one, which is the absolute nuts, thinking like Nate said, of flipping, if I'm not on McCarthy, maybe I go to Jones at home in a good spot, pops on the stone, over at Ship It Nation, things like that. And then you also say, don't forget Pittsburgh. People are like, oh, it's so hard to pick the random defense. We talked about maybe pairing Pittsburgh with Warren, but if you're not on, again, just go to your build. Let your build dictate. That's why I do defense last. If I landed on this spot, I would say, well, I'm not on Chase Brown anyway. I'm not on Jamar Chase, and I'm not playing Warren. Maybe it's because the defense just does all the work for Pittsburgh, and it is Warren and Flacco at home in Pittsburgh. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're not playing Flacco, who's the second highest owned quarterback on the slate, right? Jamar Chase, Chase Brown. It leverages all of those guys, right? And guess what? If this defense is doing good, those guys aren't getting there. It's everyone was afraid to do that because they saw what happened in the first game of this division matchup has to be what's going to happen this week, right? And that's the thing, is we know division matchups usually go one of two ways. It's either a blowout or it's a back and forth game and it just goes absolutely nuts. Well, It's very rare for lightning to strike twice, right? And that's the case there. So the Steelers defense, that's an additional point, right? Is it leverages three of the most popular plays on the slate in general.
Yeah, and this is too, Matt. I'm going to come to you on this in a second. I just, got to get a couple things out. There's no disrespect to anybody, and it's not like I'm saying like I know better or something. Like Bryce Young was just career day, guys. Do you see him anywhere? You don't. So again, you didn't need that. You need to play Bijan, Tet, and then figure it out. If he got there for you, so be it. It is what it is, and people will shit on it because I'm, going against some people that played it. But I'm just telling you, he was dead last almost in our stack rankings. And that makes our stack rankings look bad, but he, again, still wasn't needed because not enough people played him. There's only this many lineups with it. You need the perfect storm and you need the career day. It only takes one in DFS, and I get that, but if you weren't on him, I'd feel better about than if you were on him for like the whole season and playing well, because there was nothing yesterday that said it would be a spot for him, and this type of stuff just happens. So to each their own. But what Kendall F said, Matt, I want to kick this one to you. Your lineup should tell a story. But I think where people get confused with their story is they focus too much on the picks and the plays and not the DFS story, which is the DFS story is like, if you don't, again, how do you get to these landing spots? If you're not on Chase Brown, you're not on Flacco, you're not on Chase, maybe Pittsburgh D makes sense. If you're not on the cheap Tennessee defense yesterday for 2,300 and you're not on Lamar Jackson and you're worried about that game and Baltimore going into Cleveland and all that, maybe you just land on the $2,400 Cleveland Browns and how hard it can be to play in the dog pound and going back and forth. I mean, they were in that game until they lost their quarterback, which is what it is. But my point being, sometimes the DFS story is what gets you there. And Nade's kind of walked us through this one. The DFS story is the Arizona San Fran game was the nuts. There was ways to triple stack it with a run back in CMC, which they have here. If you liked Bijan, Tet would make sense because you're hoping Bijan gets there, or vice versa. And Bijan's kind of game script independent anyway, unless they're getting blown out. And so you think that of it. And then if you're not on JJ McCarthy, might make sense to have Aaron Jones, whether you like him or not, whether he only got 11 points or not, whether Jordan Mason took one. It doesn't matter. It makes sense. And then if you're not on Chase Brown, you might as well land on Pittsburgh. Again, not saying it's that easy to go and build the damn nuts, but from a perspective of thinking about how you build, that's how you build a DFS story, not a picks and plays story. Those just become the product of it. Go ahead, Matt. Anything you want to add there?
Yeah, so two things. One, the only argument I have with what you said is Sanders looked better than Gabriel yesterday. It wasn't a situation where the Browns were in the game until Gabriel got hurt. Sanders didn't look good either, but like Gabriel stinks. Sanders wasn't good, but that it was just a situation where the Browns beat the Ravens. But kidding aside, for me, the takeaway I get from like the perfect lineup that we looked at and then the winning lineup, and this is always the case, DFS is such a fickle game, right? Like, look at Christian Watson, who ended up on the optimal. Josh Jacobs had 2 runs on like the 3-yard line, got stuffed on both, where in the first one he was like inches away, ends up getting hurt on the second one, doesn't come back in the game. Christian Watson catches that miraculous touchdown. Without that, he's nowhere close to the perfect lineup. And that happens throughout every game, multiple times, every team. So it's just a fickle game. It's easy, like people say, to come on here and, talk about the perfect lineup and what you could have, should have done. It's also easy, kind of the vice versa side of that, to like pick apart the plays that didn't do well for you and why you shouldn't have played them, etc. You just have to understand how fickle of a game it is and how close and how small the margins are in a lot of spots.
And that's why we don't really want to pick apart. Like you said, it's like our goal is never to pick it apart and say it's like shit. Or say it's, even the other way of it. All we're trying to pick apart is how could somebody get there? How can we think about these things when we're building? Because I guess for me, Nades, it's always the same, but I already said it, so I'm not going to go on that same thing again, but like how you would get to this lineup by hand. I think so many people watching this definitely sit there and like build their $100 single entry by hand, or they start to look at the tools and they might put it together and kind of figure it out. These things will click in your mind faster if you're on top of it and you're working on your game. It's like a golfer standing over a shot. A lot of people play golf. If you've been working on your game and you've been at the range and you've been hitting these wedges, and then you get that perfect drive all of a sudden on a certain hole and you walk up, there's been plenty of times where you just screw it up. But if you've been recently working on your stuff and it's like just a swing thought in your head, you're like, man, I'm not messing around with this one. I'm just walking up and I'm sticking this thing because I've been working on this shot. That's the range I wanted. It's just like when you go to the range, you hit a shot to the range of 125 yards that's not your spot, and you're like, damn, this sucks when you walk up to that shot. That's sometimes when people are playing in tournaments and GPPs that they're uncomfortable with. This is to make you feel comfortable over that decision. So when you land on the Steelers defense as your last spot, you don't think about like, is that a good spot? Or do I have a process for this? You think, oh, wait a minute. I'm not on Chase Brown. I'm not on Joe Flacco. I'm not on Jamar Chase. I remember they talked about this. That makes sense. I'm just going to run it and see. And shout out to our man Kendall, who obviously has the stone over at Ship It Nation. I did just pull it up there, Nades. But, Cleveland Browns, high optimal rate for them. And then if you go back up to the Steelers, high optimal, high leverage as well. And so
I think they might have had the highest leverage in the stone.
They had one of them for the more expensive defenses. There was definitely others, but just the point being, like, when you see the optimal rate for the Titans is high, but the ownership is sky high to go with it. That's what makes it tricky. So if you're looking for those pivot spots, the stone is certainly a way you could find it to work in your advantage. Nades, anything you want to add on this one? If not, I want to look at our guy Robert Bones lineup.
Yeah, we can do that quick. Just the couple other points here is, right, when you're playing Bijan and you're saying Bijan is going to dwarf the rest of the running backs in the range, right? Obviously, in this lineup, you're playing McCaffrey because it makes sense of the stack. You kind of want another piece, right, to help Bijan get to his ceiling. And you're playing McCaffrey, so you're not going to go to Rico Dowdle. That doesn't really push the Bijan, right? What really pushes Bijan is likely a wide receiver scoring touchdowns, having a big game. Because guess what? If Atlanta's blowing out Carolina, I mean, Bijan's not going to be on the field. Algier is going to go in there. They already use them when they're both fully healthy, right? So in a situation like that, that's also where you could throw whatever receiver in there for that. But the second point I want to bring up is too, people are so comfortable playing Joe Flacco, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins as a QB +2. Well, you can look at Jacoby, Michael Wilson, Dortch, and McBride as cheaper than T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Joe Flacco. But just because you have another wide receiver, it's uncomfortable for people to click that. But they're happy to play a $7K T. Higgins or $6,500 T. Higgins, $8K Jamar Chase, and whatever $5,500 Joe Flacco, whatever he is on the given week. That's the mindset that you got to change and that you got to frame, right? Why is it okay, or why does everybody think it's okay or it feels okay, right, to play Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Joe Flacco, but it's not with Jacoby Brissett, Michael Wilson, Dortch, and Trey McBride when they have no running game and they're on the road. Or they're facing a good defense here that's going to put up points and they're going to have to score, right? I mean, Jacoby Brissett set a freaking passing record, right? NFL record for completions or in attempts. I mean, that's the mindset. So I think that additional piece there is you got to look at this like a salary-based game as well, because we're all playing the salary-based game. And the combo pack of Dortch and Wilson is $7,100. I mean, so there's your T. Higgins right there. Trey McBride is $2,000 cheaper than Jamar Chase. Now you have that $2,000 to work with and go get a Bijan who has a ceiling. And then you can play a guy, a wide receiver one, sub 6K that has a ceiling, things like that. Throw the names out of it. It's the roster construction in general.
Yeah, the color coding's all here too. I'm going to do a couple things because people are bringing up some points. Max, who won $4,000 yesterday, said I did all contests one group, set my rules and submitted. I played a lot of Brissett, but no Wilson without Brissett. Shout out to Rio and the value report. I used the stone heavily this week. Again, you can literally check this shit out for $19. You get all the slates for the next 5 days across all sports, or wait till Thursday and do it if you want. Like, I really don't care. This tool is phenomenal. People are using it to win hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions in the past. You can go to shipitnation.com, click the testimonials, click the winner's circle, go look at all of it. It's all there, but just look. We talked about it. And the other thing I think people get hung up on, Nate, so I'm going to spend time on this for 2 seconds. You've talked about the color codes. Here's Jacoby. Here's Wilson. Here's McBride. Here's McCaffrey. Yes, they're negative leverage. And I guess people get really stuck on this, but they're almost the highest optimal. So you're going to have some negative leverage because once people know they're the highest optimal, they're going to get owned. What you need to recognize, like the Millie Maker lineup did, is okay, maybe I'll snuggle in a Greg Dortch, who has a very high optimal rate for a $3,300 guy, right? There's not many 33. Look at Christian Kirk up here, 0.6 at 3,800. Higgins. These guys are not the ones, because the reason he's going to be optimal is because he's going to go with the other guys that are optimal. So there's your 4-piece right there, all color-coded. 4 of them are basically cash lineup style, set it up. Here's one of your high upside guys that could get you leverage at a much lower ownership. Now scroll back up. Wow. Bijan Robinson, blue. He's a high upside guy in a good matchup. Oh, he has a ceiling of almost 40, but nobody wants to play him. And he actually ended up coming in at 17, so it's still fine. Great optimal rate, though. Okay, let me consider that. Like you said, if I want someone to push him, ended up coming in at 2 point whatever % for Tet McMillan. Boom, right here in blue, opposite side of that. And then you go down to Minnesota. Aaron Jones, high upside, lower owned, good setup, good matchup. Like all this stuff is there. And then, let me round it out with the Steelers, who we don't put color codes on the defenses, but we talked about it. Solid, good leverage against 2 higher owned plays on the slate. Even if they did good, Pittsburgh could still do good. It's just where you landed, but it's all right there. It's all in the stone. Way easier to put it together after the fact, but we've said it a million times. If you literally just get Ship It Nation with SaberSim, put the stone on one screen, put SaberSim on the other side, build your pool off the color codes, and then follow some of the rules and the content. Shout out to our man Rio. 2 of them right here. He only lists 3. Christian Watson. But the point that Max said right here, he said, shout out to Rio, right this point. Wilson will step into the wide receiver 1 role for the Cardinals this weekend with Marvin Harrison Jr. out, which puts him in play as one of the few values. Everyone's like, oh, he got the chalk right. It's not about that. This is it right here. I did not want to play him as a one-off and would only pair him with Jacoby Brissett. Boom. Just little tidbits, little nuggets like that you want to keep working on. So I'm going to go back to you, Matt. We're going to bring up our boy Bobby Gomes. I really like this lineup. I know it didn't get there for him all the way, but if you just think about the same type of thought process, I talked about this all weekend, playing those 2 tight ends in the same game with everything else to go with it. He ends up getting Bijan, no Woody Marks, so he plays Nico Collins at a lower percentage, 13%. I think that's pretty good for him. And then lands on the Denver D, which who cares? If you're not going to be on Mahomes, all those guys, this, that, and the other. I know it's out of his lineups and out of his pool, but I still think that's a great lineup that popped up to the top there. Any thoughts on this one or any thoughts on Bobby's 50K third place finish?
Yeah, totally. So first off, I think everything you were talking about falls into and this is a saying you love, it's not how you play, or it's not who you play, it's how you play them. And that certainly fits with everything we're talking about right now and earlier in this show. As far as Bobby's lineup goes, you've said it a couple times now, really, really good lineup. The difference between third and first in a contest like this is often very small. Yesterday was a little bit bigger, but that's the difference between like the Denver D and Steelers D. And sometimes it's just what it takes. You mentioned it can be very random at times, but other than that, very, very well constructed lineup. I also like that double tight end approach. My best lineup yesterday, I played 4, had that. So nice to see Bobby get close to the top with that. Good plays all over. Nico was great. Obviously had the triple stack in Arizona. Paired that with McCaffrey and Kittle that you needed, and then just good plays all around it. Ended up getting 50K. And again, the difference between that and getting all the way to the top was just a defense. So props to Bobby. Good day for him.
Yeah, I was trying to see what else could have got there. Like, I think if he drops Nico to Tet for the run back at 5,600, it gives him 1,200 more. He gets to Baltimore and Tet for the Millie. That's what it would look. Again, that's the hindsight where we're not doing that game. Like that's not how it works. That's the easy way to do it right now. It's just saying when you see it and you're looking for different angles of attack, it's to hopefully help you when you're building out next time to see how this could have just sort of closed it off. And to be honest, is there a Houston defense in here? I'm just trying to find what they scored. Does anybody remember or know what the Houston D got yesterday? I don't think they came through in the end.
They scored. Houston D scored.
There's one.
9 points.
9 points. And it would be more than likely that if you go to Ted here just to close it out, to say like the 3-game parlay, you know what we talk about? Like give me 6 guys from this game, give me Bijan and Tet to push them, and let me land on 3,800 for the Ravens or the Falcons, or the Texans. The Texans would be opposite of the Tennessee defense. I'm curious too what they ended up coming in at, so I'm going to run this one more time. Baltimore came in at 3%.
Tennessee came in at 20%.
That's so high for a million maker.
And what did Houston come in at? That's what I want to see.
17 for Houston, 20% for Titans. So it actually flipped.
Yeah, there you go. All right, I had it there earlier, but either way, you got it. You got it out.
Highest is 8%. So I mean, you're talking at minimum 12 percentage points from the highest defense at $2,300. It's just insane. So
I'm curious to Kendall's point here. He says that, this was my first week focusing on more unique lineups, got so much wrong, and still had 158% profit on the week. So first off, congrats. Any profitable week is a good one. It means you were putting yourself in the position. You can find stuff from there. But as far as process goes, it's hard to tell without seeing it all. I'd be curious, Kendall, if you don't mind, because you've been so awesome in the chat today and engaging with us, what you did to get different. Because I had an email this morning, actually, Nades. I'll go to you on this one. From somebody that I'm doing the mentorship program with over in DFS Mastermind. You got to be a Mastermind member first to get into that, but just noting it, and they're working on their game, and they showed me the lineup that they played, and I mean, they're paying for it, so it's like I got to be very direct and honest, and they said the chalk got me this week. They just didn't play much chalk, so that's their point, is like the chalk hurt them, but you should not be avoiding the majority of the chalk. And like, for example, their line, I'm not going to say their name or call anything out, even what they played, because I'll just say the kind of underlying stuff, but like they played a 2 tight end lineup, but no McBride. And their point was they want to fade McBride, but it's almost like, and I know they didn't mean this, but it's almost like you're trying to not play him and then spite him. You're like, not only is he not going to be the guy, I'm going to do a 2 tight end lineup just to dunk on you to not be the guy. It's like that stuff's just too aggressive, too cute. You don't need to do that. You could have played Kittle with McBride. You could have played Kittle and not McBride, but then played another runner. And I'm not saying who he played. I'm just giving an example of ways to go against McBride if you didn't want to play him. There was definitely some people that were, jumping for joy early on when Kittle was scoring and McBride wasn't to start things off. And then obviously Brissett literally set a record for the most completed passes in a game and put up a couple on that number. So I just think for me, it's part of it where, you got to be thinking about it. Like when I went back to the Stone Nades, that's why I went there for the conversation, is like too many people look at negative leverage and go like, oh, you're just telling me to play all the chalk. Like Rio said, Michael Wilson, no shit, he's a good play. That's fine. No shit. The good plays are the good plays. And you ended up needing them to win. You are allowed to get different. After those 3, Greg Dortch, not as high owned. And if you went to Stack Seeker, you'd see it. Bijan, Tet, Steelers D, Aaron Jones. These aren't the most popular plays on the slate. We just had it up. The numbers don't lie. It's right here. 11%, 10%, 2%, 8%, 2%. This is the one always, Nades. But people will sit back and bitch and say, of course, the Jacoby Brissett stacks got there. I'm never going to win on weeks like that. Why? Go play better. Play different. Go figure it out.
Yeah, so the chalk got you. Okay, well, guess what? Jalen Warren, highest owned player on the slot. Yeah, he got you, right? He buried you.
Josh Jacobs.
Third highest. Jacobs, 4th highest. Yeah, okay. Wilson, McCaffrey, and McBride are 3 of the top 6. They're all correlated. But how do you play them differently? Well, guess what? Go to Stack Seeker. You start with Michael Wilson and Jacoby Brissett. Okay, you're at 10,409 lineups. Add in Trey McBride. Okay, now you're already down to 8,500. Oh, let's go click in Christian McCaffrey, right? Let's see what that does. Oh, you're down to 3,600 lineups. Oh, let's go add in Greg Dortch, right? Color-coded on the Stone. We saw we already talked about it. Now you're down to 752 lineups. We started with 10,500. All we didn't add in Kenneth Gainwell, Shavers, name all these bums, right? We added good players correlated within a game environment, and you just left 10,000 people outside knocking on the door trying to get back in to collect their money, right? So little things like that. And going back to Bobby's lineup, right? I mean, I looked at his portfolio a little bit, that third place lineup. He had 50% exposure to Jalen Warren, match the field, right? Which a lot of good pros do in a contest like this. But this is how you build a lineup, right? He had 50% exposure to Jalen Warren. Guess what? In that lineup that took third, he could have moved 2 pieces around. He left $100 on the table. He played Trey McBride in the flex. Jalen Warren was $6,100, right? So the stims and optimizers and building, even if you were to hand build it, he played chalk, but that doesn't mean go play more chalk on top of it, right? When you're playing chalk, you also got to think of what that does, right? He's playing Christian McCaffrey, right, as part of the stack. He could have put Trey McBride up to the tight end position, played Jalen Warren in the flex, whatever, but he was playing Trey McBride differently, where people were, if they were going double tight end, most of them were going probably two cheap tight ends, trying to say, oh, McBride's just not going to get there. Or if they were, they were playing Trey McBride in one of the other popular tight ends on the slate. We could probably look at StackSeeker and see that. So little things like that, when you're overall combined ownership of your roster, you can play good plays, but we just looked at it. I mean, Jacoby Brissett, 15% owned. McCaffrey, 22% owned. Michael Wilson, 24% owned. Trey McBride, 34% owned. We left 10,000 people outside looking in, playing all of those plays because all we did was add them all together.
Yeah. Welcome to the show, Code Res. I mean, you can scroll back 10 minutes when we just said, we don't know better. We're here to learn. We focus on a win or learn mentality, and that's what we're focused on. And I'm not calling people a loser. I'm talking about loser mentality, where it's like, poor me, the chalk got me, all the chalk is bad. Like, go look, the chalk sucked. The chalk was terrible. Go, here it is. Exposures, turn it off. Just go to where's the actual setup, Nades? It's right here. 8 points off 40%, 6 points off 30%, 4 off 25. Oh, imagine that. There's 3 that actually got there, and they're all in the same spot. Like, that's the whole point. It is way easier to know when it's done. We're trying to learn and see what we can extract from it. People think there's nothing to learn. When you look back, that's insanity to me. And everything else, why do people read self-development books? Why do people read books about people that have been there, done that, and got better from it, and try and use those to their advantage? So you're going back to try and pick up on stuff. There's not many angles. Like in a poker tournament, you can review, typically in online stuff specifically, your own hand histories and find that stuff out. And whatever hands get shown on TV, you can review and learn about your opponents. But you cannot go back and see everything that your opponents did on the entire slate. We can go see exactly what they did, who they played, how they played them. If you don't think that's advantageous, I'm not calling you out directly on this one. I'm just saying your point is right. It's way easier to know, but it's the mentality of those folks that come in thinking like, oh, the slate's over, just move on. Or that slate sucked. There's nothing to learn from that. That's just shit. Sure. But the same people are winning the game over and over again. Congrats to Shady Advice. Amazing player. Got the Millie Maker done again yesterday with Uticow and Hicks and guys like up there. And people always laugh because, oh, they're the optimizer, the best guys, this, that, and the other. Again, how'd they get there? They don't just show up and win. They definitely work on their game. They perfect their craft. They get the job done. Congrats to them. I'm always putting them on a pedestal because do I want to be as good as them? Sure. Do I want to put in as much time as them? No. I'm working on different things. Family life, businesses, things like that. I'm happy the way I'm playing, but it's a passion of mine. I love breaking down the game, and I think it's incredible to watch what they do week after week, and it's something that I look up to. So for me, I'm always going to put them up there because they don't just show up and win. They put the work in. That's how this works. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, no, I just kind of want to add to that point. Like, I like to consider myself someone who's pretty good at DFS. I play a lot, and this show does a lot for me. Just talking to the guys that do the show with me, just hearing what they have to say. Talked about beforehand, had a little bit of a tilt yesterday. So if you're not looking at ways to improve your game, you're just doing it wrong. And that can be whatever, but this show is a good way to kind of live and learn and know and kind of go back and rehash what you did right, what you did wrong, so you can copy what you did right going into the next couple of weeks or next week or whenever you play again and kind of avoid the same mistakes. So yeah, it's obviously easy to go over the answers once you have or to go over the test once you have the answers to the test. But that's the point of the show. It's not like we're trying to get by anyone. We're just trying to talk about what happened yesterday.
It's just like a talking shop. You said this 100 times. I mean, we're open about everything at Ship It Nation. We're pretty vulnerable about these things. Like we're excited to hop on this show every Monday. It's like our least amount of views we get on any show. We don't do this for the views or anything like that. We do it because it helps our game. We know it helps others. It's what we're truly all about. We love this shit. But we were on 15 minutes early today before we went live. People probably would rather us do this on the show, Matt. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but it's like we're on talking about late swap decisions we made and like opportunities to get better. And could we have done something differently? And, you know, Matt and I were shooting back and forth. Then Nades hops on and he restarts the story because Nades wants to hear it too. It's like, what are we talking about? Let's get this going and have these conversations. And that was about like late swap or like at the end of the week. Sometimes you have a lineup that is better that you're like, man, now I really don't want to change anything, but do you? And maybe you don't want to change one of your 3 max, but maybe you can re-rack the second and the third lineup with the now 4th and be able to say, okay, what can I see here? What can I do this? What can I make happen that could have been differently maybe for next time? Because that's really what it's all about. We want to make sure that we're dialing that in.
Yeah, I just want to hit on this real quick, Cody, and it's not trying to be a bash on you. We've hashed this out multiple times on these shows. We do the show every single week
for years.
Everybody has sims, right? Not everybody. I should say almost all of the top pros, almost all of the top players you're playing against in all of your contests, regardless of the buy-in, they all have sims. But guess what? Sims don't make you win, right? Everybody has them. If everybody didn't have sims, the best player still got to the top. Everybody has sims. You don't see the same player winning every week. You don't see just because this guy has the sims, this guy doesn't, right? He gets to the top. I mean, I looked at the leaderboard this week. Yeah, it's a lot of 150 maxers, but 4 or 5 of the top 10 were single bullet entries, or couple of the top 10 were single bullet entries in that, right? You still have to build a portfolio into your optimizer and let the sims work in your regard, right? Based on your exposures, right? I want to be over leveraged on this guy. I want to be under on this guy, right? You can't just go in and play the sims, right? And click an easy button. There is no easy button, right? So to say sims, all these lineups are built by sims anyways, and that's the reason they're winning, is just completely wrong. Because guess what? Go look at the pros that played 150 lineups that have sims that didn't do good, right? Go to the ROI. Sort by, look at -3,000, -3,000, -3,000, -3,000. They all have sims. All of those 150 maxers, they're at the bottom of the leaderboard. So that is just completely wrong thinking, and it's fine. But it's not just pointing on you. It's a point on everybody saying this is why they're getting there. That's not right. We're trying to back test it, and we're trying to reverse engineer, right, a thought process on how they put their portfolio into their optimizer to allow the sims to put them in a chance over everybody else in the same contest that they're playing that has the exact same tools at their hands, right? There is, I mean, you can put Tambo, the cooking example, right? You put 15 chefs in a kitchen, you give them 3 ingredients, right? There's going to be guys that separate from the rest of the pack of the chefs with the exact same ingredients because of their own process, right?
Yeah.
What they do here, what they tweak here, this, how they do this, right? And there's going to be a couple that excel to the top, and their whatever food tastes way better than the other 12 in the exact same room with the exact same process at hand.
The one thing I want to hop in here and say that CodeRez is talking about, because I totally agree with everything you said, Nate's one thing, and I've mentioned this to Tambo, I think a couple weeks ago. Yeah, like to CodeRez's point, like when we're talking about one specific lineup in a person's 150 set, we know that they didn't go in and like change the lineup and review each lineup. We're just talking about the lineup as if they did because we have the answers to the test. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, again, it's a totally different thing. I mean, it's our other content and our tools and the SaberSim partnership. Those are what you need to build the 150 sets. But I think what he added, and he said, I love the show, and we never want to make it about one person. We love your engagement. It helps us talk about the things that we think others are considering. So I hope you appreciate that. Definitely full respect here to you. And said 99% of people are not review. I think he means most people aren't building. Yeah, 160 people out of 160 or 147,000 this week entries did 150 max, and a bunch of them lost money. To Nade's point, that's how it works. Everybody knows that. That's the usual factor. But I hope, and this is what my biggest takeaway is like, it's more to show you how these, like what builds one and how you might be able to reverse engineer to think about your own portfolio, or to your point that most don't build this many lineups. There is so many people that watch this that just play 20 or less lineups. When you play 1 to 20 lineups, you do have the ability to review what you're putting in beforehand. If you have 20 lineups, you can literally look at all 20 and make a decision on what's for you. And then maybe you keep 15 and scrap 5 and then put a few more in and that sort of thing. I think that's the key factor, is I want people to reverse engineer the thought process and then bring it back. If you're building your whole portfolio and you are a 150 max player, we're not just handpicking the winners to say, like, why didn't you get this in your portfolio? That's not the point. It's saying how things sort of came together and the style of builds that are finding their way to the top. And again, if you're watching our other content and using the tools and the partnerships and things to put it all together, maybe that's where it's you that lands on this spot. We pulled up some of the winners in our community that did find those over the weekend and were able to get themselves to the top using the tools. Max was in here earlier and literally said, I did all contests, one group, set my rules and submitted, meaning he didn't do what we're doing and dissect everything and change it all and make any moves. He just did this, but he played it this way because of the value report, and he used the stone to put it all together. So all good stuff. I think it's definitely awesome. And he says, exactly, that was my point. Yeah, that's all we're saying, but that's what this is all about. We hope it helps somebody out there get better, find a better process, find their way, and maybe bring up more questions. Curiosity is key. If you're bringing that up and you're bringing questions each week and you're putting the time in and you're doing the work, to me, there's always a higher chance of success. It's often hard work that gets you there and not just random luck. Those that have the random luck that get there sometimes don't see them anymore after a year of DFS play or one good season where they finally showed up. But the names that we're working with and the people that we're focused on and trying to help get better, we're trying to make it so it's a repeatable process that you can show up again and again and again. And you're going to take your lumps along the way. You're going to make 100K late swap decisions that go against you. You're going to do different things that can hurt you, but you're hoping that it helps more than it hurts. That's always my takeaway. Matt, any final thoughts from you, man, before we get out of here?
No, really nice breakdown. Love doing the show with you guys. Today on a day where I was tilting pretty hard this morning, very cathartic for me. So moving on to tonight's Monday Night Football game. Appreciate both you guys. Appreciate the chat. Just a really fun show. I very much enjoyed doing this every Monday with both of you.
I love it. This gets me fired up every Monday. And again, I know sometimes I'm a very direct person, but I really just, I want to see everybody do well, and it's important to me. And so all the comments you guys bring and all that stuff really helps us. It helps me, help you, helps these guys, helps everybody involved. Somebody's taking something positive away from it, even if there is negatives involved. We're just trying to learn. We're just trying to get better. Hopefully you guys can appreciate that. Nades, my man, always fun to be here with you as well. Any final thoughts from you before we get out of here?
Oh, love the show. Echo everything you guys said here, and apologize, Cody. Didn't mean to come at him. I hear that a ton, right? In our own Discord, everywhere, Twitter, right? All it takes. I mean, you can scroll X and in 3 seconds, you can find people tilting their face off about Sims, and this guy won because he played 150, right? But we're all trying to get better, right? And the 60 of us that we have watching live, right, and everybody watching on playback. You guys are all striving to have the same, right? We're not all perfect, right? We're all trying to work on our game, and this helps us as part of our process. And so many people, right? There's a lot less people that review beforehand than after. And the amount of people that review after the fact, like we're doing right now, are still slim to none, right? Go back to the Jacoby Brissett example, right? You start with 10,500 people in the room with Jacoby Brissett, Michael Wilson. You start adding the additional people. Well, guess what? All those people are escorted out of the room, and now you're left with 200, 300 people, right? And that's what we're trying to get in a process like this, right? To make it repeatable, to make you winning players, right? And potentially turn this from a hobby into whatever, right? Whatever you want to, a job, extra income, right? You're right. A profitable hobby, exactly, right? A hobby that you enjoy and gives you a nice sweat, right? To watch sports differently than just your average family members, right? Just cheering over their own team, right? And things like that. So no, love the show. Appreciate all the interaction in the chat, and we'll keep this going. Keep bringing comments in the chat, right? We like pulling up and thinking what you guys are seeing in the chat and talking through it to help you guys out even more. So all the interaction's great, and yeah, no, good show.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Congrats to all the winners yesterday. I think it was an awesome day all around. It was fun breaking this one down. Like I said, we didn't have in the system today, they didn't actually have the 44 mega up and ready, but congrats to Shady Advice again for getting that one done. He had a pretty nice lineup there if you guys want to go check it out. But it was a Brissett, Wilson, Dortch, McBride. It was a runback with McCaffrey. It played Bijan, Jamar Chase, and the Titans D with Mark Andrews in the flex. And I'm not sure if there was a movement there to get to it or whatever, but either way, congrats to him. We just couldn't review it based on Fantasy Labs not having it up. So shout out to everybody in the chat. Let us know in comments if you want to see more like this. Make sure to hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to join Ship It Nation, use code SHIP19. Gets you all access for all the sports, Discord, Saber Sim, and then you can make a decision from there. For Matt, for Nades, and for myself, ToeTagginTambo, let's ship it.